The first time Kakashi shows his Mangekyou Sharingan in Naruto and uses Kamui against Deidara was a very cool and epic moment. But when the moment passes, many people ask themselves, wait, hold on, how did he get that Mangekyou? At the time when we saw that, we had absolutely no clue because the series was still going and had a lot of chapters left till the end or until we get the explanation. At that point, everyone assumed that Kakashi got his Mangekyou over the time skip, like how Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke evolved as well, but we later found out that Kakashi got his MS when he was about 13 years old after he kills Rin, and Obito witnesses her death as well, and both of them awaken the Mangekyou at the same time. And that leaves a very big question. Why wouldn't Kakashi use his Mangekyou powers before that? Before we answer that question though, please subscribe to this channel and like this video if you like this type of content. It really helps me out. So why wouldn't Kakashi just use the Mangekyou before Shippuden? Because he's had that for 15 years by that point. I have a couple of theories about that. The first one being that his body wasn't strong enough to sustain or even use the Mangekyou Sharingan in part 1. In the first arc of the series in the Land of Waves, when Kakashi fought Zabuza, and Kakashi only used his base Sharingan in that fight, and he was already in a pretty bad state after it. Imagine if he used the Mangekyou at that point, which really strains your body much more than just a base Sharingan. His Mangekyou would probably kill him. The first time he used it in Shippuden, he is bedridden for a week or even more. Later in Shippuden, using his Mangekyou literally kills Kakashi when he fought Pain. So I have to assume that he would probably just die right away if he used it against Zabuza or Haku or any time at all in part 1. Another possible theory is that Kakashi did not know he had a Mangekyou Sharingan. And you may think that's far-fetched, but I actually don't think so. When Kakashi awakened his Mangekyou, he passed out right away because he just couldn't really handle the surge of power he received. Obito, however, being an Uchiha, his body was more prepared to receive that additional power from his eye, and therefore he didn't pass out. Also, he had half of his body made out of Hashirama cells by that point, which probably helped as well, so he didn't really feel the strain that Kakashi felt at that point. And that's the thing, Kakashi didn't see at all what happened that day. The last thing he remembers, if you think about his POV, is that he killed Rin and that he passed out for whatever reason. He may have thought he passed out because of the anguish he felt when Rin threw herself at his Chidori. It's not far-fetched to assume that the Mangekyou Sharingan is an actual pretty big secret in the Uchiha clan because Itachi had to tell Sasuke about it. It wasn't as though everyone was saying, oh, there is this Sharingan called the Mangekyou Sharingan that you get when you kill your best friend and all that. A lot of people wouldn't know, and I don't think Kakashi would know about the Mangekyou at that point. I think it's safe to assume that the only people who know are very higher up Uchihas in the Uchiha clan, Hiruzen and Danzo at that point. I don't think even Jiraiya or Tsunade would know. Orochimaru would definitely know, but you get the point. Kakashi would probably just not know about the existence of an evolution of the Sharingan by the point he awakened it, so he wouldn't even know how to tap into it, much less that he has access to it. But then, if you remember well, in part 1, something different happens. Kakashi encounters Itachi. What does Itachi do to Kakashi? He shows his Mangekyou Sharingan to him, and actually puts him under Tsukiyomi, which is one of the special abilities Itachi's Mangekyou possesses. Seeing that, Kakashi should be like, well, hold on, that's a different type of Sharingan. I wonder how he got that. And to be honest, I kind of think this is something Itachi did very much on purpose, trying to tell Kakashi about the Mangekyou Sharingan. I don't know if Itachi suspected that Kakashi had a Mangekyou, but there is one exchange in Shippuden when Kakashi is fighting Itachi's body double that kind of implies that, because when they're about to fight, they're just talking before the battle begins. Itachi is saying something like, Kakashi, your Sharingan doesn't really compare to mine, yada yada yada, and then Kakashi says, no, this time it will be different. And it is definitely implying that his Sharingan has evolved and that he has access to the Mangekyou, so he wouldn't be as vulnerable to Itachi's Tsukiyomi with a Mangekyou to resist it. And Itachi gets really shocked. You can see this panel right here when he looks kind of taken aback and says, Kakashi, don't tell me you you, and then it kind of cuts off. You know, they don't really say, but it's very much foreshadowing to what Kakashi is going to do at the end of the arc, preparing for the Mangekyou. Looking at Itachi's perspective, I think he didn't know Kakashi had the Mangekyou. I think that when he put him under Tsukiyomi, he was more telling Kakashi, this is the power of the Akatsuki, you should take this threat very seriously, which is something I cover in this video right here when I talk about Itachi's plan when he infiltrated the village. But regardless, Kakashi sees Itachi's Mangekyou in part 1, and then he is aware that the Mangekyou exists and that there is an evolution of the Sharingan. I'm pretty sure that over the time skip, over those 3 years that Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were training, Kakashi was doing some research and training as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Kakashi found something about the Mangekyou Sharingan and was like, well, maybe I could try that, you know, something really bad happened to me in the past and I kind of remember that surge of power and then I passed out. Maybe I have access to this, and then he could maybe have tried to do something, trying to activate his Mangekyou Sharingan, which I think it's one of those things that once you know you have it, you kind of have the instinct to just activate it without being really taught how to do it. That seems to be the way everyone does that when they awaken the Mangekyou. Obito just starts using it right out of the gate. Sasuke seems to know what his Mangekyou is able to do when he fights V as well. He uses Amaterasu, and it's not as though something you have to train for, because if you train using your Mangekyou abilities, they're going to start making your eye blind, so you kind of have to save those for actual important moments. We don't know exactly how Itachi or Madara did after they awakened their Mangekyou, but I have to assume it was something similar. We definitely see that once you awaken the Mangekyou and that you probably have the knowledge of its existence, it's probably something instinctive that you're able to use. And that's most likely how Kakashi got his Mangekyou and how he learned that he had access to a very powerful ability, the Kamui. I don't think Theory 2 actually discredits Theory 1. I think they work very well together. Even if Kakashi knew about the existence of his own Mangekyou in part 1, if he used that, well, he would have died. As I said before, his body wouldn't have handled the power of a Mangekyou if it could barely handle the power of a base Sharingan back then. And then of course Kakashi built up his resistance towards the Sharingan during the time skip as well, and by the time Shippuden rolled around, he was able to use his Sharingan, just his base Sharingan, for a much longer period of time, and then he could use his Mangekyou, meaning that the character definitely progressed and got more powerful. Of course, that after that things get kind of ridiculous in the arc because Kakashi starts to spam his Mangekyou and all that, but I kind of like that. You know, Kamui is just a really cool ability that works very well for teamwork, especially Kakashi's Kamui, which is essentially a support ability, an amazing support ability that was the only reason why they were able to tag Obito in their fight. And then he gets his dual Mangekyou, which is something a little bit, you know, more questionable, but it's a cool thing. Even though I don't really like the fight against Kaguya at all, I think Kakashi's dual Mangekyou is definitely the best part in that fight, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Watch this video right here to find out why Kakashi is so much more powerful during the war, but leave it in the comments below, why do you think Kakashi never used his Mangekyou before Shippuden? Thanks for watching.